Hello, yes, and welcome to Irish Football Fan TV with myself, Gerard Browne. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Republic of Ireland women's international striker and Cologne player Amber Barrett for a discussion today on her career and I suppose all things Ireland and I suppose everything going on with the current pandemic at the moment. Amber, how are you getting on yourself? I suppose you're over in Cologne in Germany at the moment. What's it like over there?
I suppose the only thing is the weather's been very good. It's probably the same as it is in Ireland, and just I suppose trying to keep as active and as mentally sane as possible, same as everybody else.
And in terms of, I suppose, keeping active, keeping fit, doing a bit of training, what's that like at the moment? When are you hoping to get back into, I suppose, collective training or even a small bit of training in groups?
Well, we've been given an individual program now for the last number of weeks, but we're hopefully back training on Monday. The men's team have been back training the last 2 weeks, so I think we'll be back training on Monday, and more than likely it'll be in groups.
Yeah, it's a tricky all-time situation. You find any other pastimes or any hobbies or just something to kind of, I suppose, keep you mentally challenged and mentally keep you going over these past few weeks?
See, I'm kind of, I think, at a little bit of an advantage because I suppose I've been trying to perfect the German language since I've been here for the last few weeks. So at least that's kind of given me something to do. But other than that, it's probably the usual as everybody else, going for walks, Netflix, walking about, and I suppose getting to the shop as frequently as you can for what you'd call a big day out.
Has your German improved from the specific word you used in German to describe it last January?
Yes, it certainly has. I know other words along those lines as well now.
We'll keep that off the broadcast. Do you find it hard in this situation being away from home and being away from family and it's not even being exposed around that many Irish people even at the moment?
Yeah, I must say it's been really, really tough here for the last couple of weeks. Obviously, after we played Montenegro away, that's when everything kind of started to change. And when I came back here, we were due to have a game that weekend, but unfortunately, then on the Friday night, everything was kind of called, and I think we've not had any interaction since then. I suppose my only kind of little bit of disappointment was that I wasn't allowed to go home. Cologne said that they wanted all their players to stay here, so it's been the case for me and several other players that live abroad or are from abroad that we've had to stay here, which of course it's hard when you're away from your family and all, but I'm not the only one affected by this. So I think after that there I kind of just got used to it, and I live on my own anyway, so it's not about my own company that I don't mind. I suppose it's just a wee bit of the human interaction you miss, and hopefully we're coming to not the end of it. I know that's a long way away, but hopefully things are starting to shift a little bit, and maybe it won't be that long until we are back all together.
Seems like you're a bit ahead of the time with self-isolation, but living by yourself. But then with the positive or the negativity, I suppose, with the pandemic, we might get back onto it in terms of how it's going to affect the resumption of the Bundesliga there. But let's go right back to the beginning. Grew up in Milford, County Donegal. County has produced some very good Irish international for a couple of years. I think goalkeepers like Packy Bonner, Shay Given, even striker Gary Doherty. So where did your first interest and kind of memories come from football, and what gets you from soccer, as we call it down the country, and what kind of got you excited and involved in it?
Well, I suppose when I was younger, Jared, I always was involved in sport, and I played Gaelic for the local J club, and I played soccer for the local soccer club. So it's not something that kind of one day I just decided. It was just something I was brought into, and you were just thrown straight into it, and whether you liked it or whether you not, you had to stick at it. It got you out of the parents' hair for a night or two during the week as well. So that's really it. Started off playing with Mulford, and I played with boys for most of it. I think it wasn't until under 12s or under 14s things started to change then, and I was a wee bit unfortunate too. There was no women's team in Mulford at the time, so I went and played the majority of my female football in Donegal Flag and Harps.
Of course, us 90 kids, the Jack Charlton era, unfortunately, was too early for us. So the World Cup 2002 in South Korea and Japan, how much would that have been a big influence on you and seeing Ireland playing so well on the global stage?
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember very clearly watching one of the games in primary school at the time. I remember I wouldn't say we got the day off work, but I think the work was lessened that day, and we were all watching it together in the school. And it was only a small school. I'd say there was less than 100 students in it. So something like that there, it's always something that you kind of reflect on, and it's something that it's something you also want to experience in your lifetime. And, hopefully with the Irish women's team, I'll get to experience something as fantastic as a World Cup.
Yeah, it was a great experience, the 2002 World Cup, to be close to something like that in their age. And as mentioned there, I remember specifically as well, the Germany game 2002, we all brought into the Leaving Cert class to watch that game on TV. Back then, so 2002, early 2000s growing up, there wasn't that much exposure to women's football on TV or on a global stage. So was there kind of any female footballers you might have looked up to or idolised or kind of felt would have influenced you growing up as a child?
Well, I suppose, Irish women's football, the likes of Olivia O'Toole, Ciara Grant, they're huge names in women's football in Ireland. And I suppose the iconic Arsenal team that, dominated the English Women's League for years, with the likes of Niamh Fahey and Amber Barrett and Ciara Grant and Yvonne Tracy, I think you can't be, a proper fan of Irish women's football if you don't recognise those names as well. So I think, I remember watching one of the FA Cup finals that they played in as well, and I think you're just nearly completely mesmerised about, these women, that they put in as much effort, and they work extremely hard and they get rewarded in these ways. And the likes of that Arsenal team, I think, there's a huge amount of, famous names in it, and I think the best thing about it is it was dominated by Irish female players as well.
So would you have had a soft spot for Arsenal growing up as a kid, or what team would you have had an attachment towards?
Well, to be honest with you, I think Arsenal women's team was probably the most well-promoted team at the time, and I think it was the one that everybody was probably most familiar with. I'm not myself a Gunners fan. Coming from a United background, I can't be like that, but I think you can't ignore how fantastic they were and the fact that they did dominate for so long. So I suppose in terms of women's football, I suppose now with the likes of Louise and Katie there too, you're always looking out for them and hoping that they get on the right side of the result.
Liverpool fan myself, so it's nice to see the cracking flag, the Irish contention there for the women's side, and of course being Liverpool fans, sweating very much that this current Premier League season does actually get concluded, which is looking a little bit in doubt. So you mentioned GA with a big background as well, but you're going up to national, up into Donegal, a strong GA county as well. You balanced both sports for quite a long time, up until 2016 when you were 20 years of age, and then you had to make a decision one way or another. How difficult was that to challenge or to juggle both sports at a reasonably high level, and then how difficult was it to decide between one or the other?
Well, I suppose, when I kind of look back on it, for most of my, I suppose, underage career between soccer, Gaelic and athletics, I was always kind of juggling between the three. And, probably when I was in my probably early to mid-teens, probably the athletics started to fall away. So I suppose the closer I got to my 20s, and I kind of knew that one was going to have to take priority. And I was told for years by Patsy McGonigal, who was the former Irish athletics head coach, he always said that you have to, when you get to the age of 15, 16, you're probably always going to have to make a decision on what you want to do. And that was not just to do with me, but that was to do with other athletes. I think that's the age you start to get. You need to start prioritizing what you want to do, and what you really, really want to work at. So I guess the decision, I knew it was always coming. I suppose I just put it off for so long, and having played for Donegal for so long, and I was hugely honoured to have represented Donegal at senior level. That it's important for me that by the time I got to my 20s, I decided to make a decision. Obviously, it wasn't an easy decision, and it's I think there's days still that you do miss it. But I fully support the decision I made, and I think I made it at the right time, because I've had so many fantastic opportunities since then. Between European qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers, playing against some of the best women's teams in the world and some of the best women's players in the world. That's something I couldn't have imagined myself doing 5 or 10 years ago. So it's nice to have made that step, but I suppose the thing is, you nearly have to leave something good behind to get something better, and I think so far so good.
So at least you can always look back from your days of Donegal and say you won a title in the Division 2 League in 2016. And Donegal GA still remains strong in your family, both your father and brother involved in underage management of teams. Obviously, under 20s, they're finished now, so that's one less thing to worry about. But for your brother who's over under 17s, it must be a headache for him with everything's going on and uncertainty with their championships going to start.
Yeah, I suppose he's kind of like every other team, he's just been able to give his boys some of the work to do, the running and their programs and all that they have to do. It's very, very difficult for I can imagine for any manager at a time like this, the uncertainty of knowing when it's actually going to come around again, and when you're actually going to play, when you're going to be able to train. And all fairness, from speaking to Luke, and I know as well from speaking to Dad, I think they prioritise, getting a very good relationship with their players. The fact that you spend 3 to 4 nights a week with them and training, that you do build a rapport with them. And I think for even that, Luke's been saying that they've had a few Zoom calls and different things just to even catch up. And I think that's very important as well, that people seem to forget the human side of it. Yes, sports, good for physical, but also, they've made a lot of friends that way too. So I can imagine with Luke, he's spending most of his time working on tactics that aren't the blanket defence, I can imagine.
So McGuinness could be involved in the background. So we'll move on a bit more now with yourself and your football career, and look more at Peamount. A couple of unbelievable years with the Dublin club. Top goal scorer in 2017, 2018. Scored over 30 goals in one season. Must be a lot of fond memories from your time there.
Yeah, Peamount was, it was nearly like a second home to me, and I don't use that term loosely at all, and it's something that even now I still speak very, very frequently to the girls. And Anya invites me every Tuesday into the Peamount Zoom workout, so I do that every week with them, and it's just nice because they were such a huge part of my life, and they always will be. And like you said, I had a couple of very, very good years there, and I can't think that I've gone into this position without thinking about how good Peamount were to me and how accommodating they were for me. And they were always willing to help me in any way they could. And I suppose travelling up from Donegal a couple of summers to play in the National League, and there was always somewhere to sleep, and there was always people there to pick you up wherever you needed to go. And little things like that there you can't really, really forget. And I was very, very grateful to them. I suppose as well, last year, the fact that they went on to win the league after I had left was huge. And hopefully I'll still get my winners medal. I haven't picked it up yet, but I'd like to think that that's still something that I can put into the back pocket.
Maybe you were the player that was holding back from winning the league. So you mentioned it's travel up and down a little bit at starting off with Peamount from Donegal. So when and how did it come about to sign for Peamount, and when did you start with them?
It's actually quite funny because I was up with, I think it was, I don't know if it was under 17 or under 19, the international team. And I remember speaking to Eileen Gleeson, and Eileen said, she said, I suppose you're coming to the age of, you're nearing closer to college. And I said I was, and she said, well, look, if you're up or around here, she said, give me a shout. Peamount would love to have you. So I suppose I never kind of forgot that, and I never got rid of that idea. And I suppose then when I went to Maynooth, I realised how close Peamount was to me. So I spoke to Barry Crandeville, and Barry said, well, Peamount's only up the road, so I think it'd be great if you were to get involved in the National League team. So obviously keeping in mind what Eileen had said to me, that's what I was going to do. But unfortunately, when the year I actually went to Peamount for that season, Eileen had actually had left, and a lot of the Peamount players had went with her to UCD. So Robbie Mulligan was the coach when I went to Peamount at first, and I was lucky because Robbie was also the coach at the Maynooth team at the time as well. So I suppose I fell on my feet that way as well, but I suppose the only downside was that Peamount were in a rebuilding phase at the same time. They had lost, a huge chunk of their team, and international players that were playing for Peamount for years had also gone to UCD. So I suppose in that way I kind of missed out, because I think that if the initial team had stayed together, I could have had a lot more successful years in Peamount. But I don't look back with any regret in that stage. And even after I arrived, Eileen had been on to me again. She goes, well, look, I'm still very interested in you, but I think from the GAA, my loyalty, as soon as I signed for Peamount, my loyalty was with Peamount. And I'm so glad I stayed all those years, because I honestly had the best days in football and the best days of my life with them.
Yeah, certainly announced yourself as one of the top upcoming strikers in Ireland during your time at Peamount. That then led to the move last summer to Köln. As you mentioned, you left Peamount halfway through the 2019 season. They finally won the first league title in, I think, 7 or 8 years. The move to Köln, former Ireland manager Colin Bell had a big part to play in this as well.
Well, I had, Colin had spoken to me when I was kind of in my college, finishing off my master's, and I had said to him, I was very interested in moving abroad to play football, but he I said to him, I said, look, I don't want anything until after I finish college. So, all fairness to Colin, there was no pressure on his front when I was doing my masters. But I suppose as I got closer to the end of it, he kind of started just kind of, I suppose, keeping a little ear out and showing a little bit of interest with other coaches and just seeing what their thoughts were. And I started to send Colin videos of me from Peamount, and he used to send them on into different people. And I think there was one coach got in contact with him, Willie Brower, who was the coach of Cologne, and he said he was looking for a striker, and Colin kind of recommended me. So I was lucky enough then, after I was able to finish my masters, that everything kind of started to come to fruit. And I've been here now since last July, and of course I do miss Peamount, but I think I'm delighted I made the move, because I just think that I'm going to reap the reward of training every day and being exposed to the professional environment.
It's been a challenging season so far for Cologne this season. The one opening game this season, have to wait a long time then for another win. We found kind of appearances tough and hard for times to come by. Then manager Willie Brower, he left. Satchak Glass took over. Things have kind of slightly improved. We're just above the relegation zone at the moment. We've had 9 appearances now. We've got the first start in the we've got the first goal just before Christmas. Overall, how have you found the experience so far playing in one of the top leagues in Europe?
Yeah, it has been a fantastic experience. Unfortunately, like you said, I've been limited to my appearances, and I suppose that's something I knew that was going to happen. So I didn't lose too much sleep over that. I kind of just kept grinding and kept doing what I could to keep fit and to show and training what I'm capable of doing. I don't think that was never a question, whether it was good enough to do it. I suppose it was just going to always take me a little bit longer to get used to the new environment, and the exposure to the training and the load of everything, and obviously playing against teams that of a much, much higher standard, and that there was always going to take time. So I think that, when I look back on my first year, I'm always going to look back with it positively, because I think that coming from the background I did to being where I am, I've made huge strides, and I'm extremely patient, and I understood that it was going to take time. So hopefully now, if everything starts getting back up and running again, my main goal is obviously to play and to score goals, but obviously with the team, that our main goal is to stay up in the league, in the Bundesliga, and come in then after the summer, after the transfer window, maybe bring in a few more players and give it another go next year. And Cologne are too good to not be in the top division, so that's something that we're always looking to improve.
Yeah, so first season back up, so I suppose first season for any new team in the new division is always about stability and just finding your feet. So this the difference as well between playing from an amateur league to professional league, it's going to take a lot of time to adapt, and you can't underestimate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing is, I suppose, a lot of players had told me from speaking to the girls in the national team that they had all said that this was going to take you a little while to get used to, and you might go in and you might think, hey, I'm ready to go, but your body will also take a little while to get adjusted to it, going from the training with Peamount only a couple of times a week, then to training here, which was nearly 4 times what we were doing in Peamount. And that's absolutely no disrespect to Peamount, it's just a complete change of environment. And I suppose here it was just, for me, I just needed to remain as as positive and as mentally strong as I could, because obviously when you're not playing, it's a lot more difficult than it is when you are playing. So I just wanted to keep working, and like I said, it was always going to take a little bit of time, but I was lucky enough with the girls that they were always willing to give me that little bit of advice. And I wasn't stupid coming over here. Everything wasn't going to be all rosy in the garden, so I just had to make the best of every possible situation that came up my way.
Mentioned there through the girls in the Ireland team, Diane Caldwell and Claire Reedon, they're also over in Germany at the moment, and Diane used to play for Cologne. So how much of a help were they for you moving over, and how much advice did you give you as what it was going to be like?
Yeah, well, from speaking to Claire, who only recently moved over last year, and she spoke about nothing but positive stuff since she's come here, and the two of them absolutely enjoy it here, and they love playing at this level, and they love the teams that they're with, and I think the likes of Diane, who's obviously been here for a few years, said to me, she goes, I think you'll, when you get settled, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And Claire was the same. Now they both did pre-warn me that German was going to be a pain in the ass, but other than that, the girls have been fantastic and always checking in with me, and even during the week, even on the run up to playing Duisburg and Sand, you know, it wasn't like, oh, I can't speak to them. Always speaking to them, just checking in with, you know, obviously trying to find out what the plan is for the game at the weekend, but they kept their cards close to their chest in that regard.
Hearing that German is a pain in the arse to learn makes me definitely stand by my 13-year-old decision to learn French in secondary school. Cologne itself, lovely city. I've been there myself last year. It's a really nice environment. I've been to for a player off the pitch. Nearly there now, 10, 11 months. How do you find adapting to a new city, new culture, new language?
Yeah, honestly, it's been fantastic, and I suppose when you look at it, if we were to stay in the Bundesliga, I think you could nearly say that it's been a terrific year for us. And obviously, I want to play and I want to be scoring goals, and you know that's something then hopefully in the next coming seasons that I will look to improve on. But in terms of the city, like you said, it's an absolutely fantastic city. It's filled with beautiful people, and it's an experience to live in it's an experience to live in a foreign country, but also to live in such a popular city. And I suppose the language, it's like everything, it's going to be hard at the start. And I must say that, you know, I've been doing lessons now for the last couple of months, and I think they've made a huge impact on it as well for me. So my ability to understand things has really, really improved. So I think in that sense, when you can understand things a little bit better, it's always going to be a little bit easier too. And I also got to experience Carnival a few weeks ago in Cologne, which is a bit of a mad few days here. So, you know, that's something a lot of people talked about as well. So in terms of being here for the first year, it really has been terrific.
Learning the language and improving over the last couple of months, does it help you settle in a bit more now with the bench with the team, which I know is something that's very important to you?
Well, I hope so. I suppose I'll know when the manager starts giving out to me if I can understand what he's saying to me. But like, I think it's important for me when you're playing football that you do understand things. I think initially, you know, again, my vocabulary for German is quite good. It's just, I think when things went into big sentences, I think I got a little bit lost in translation. So I think now it's important for me just to be that little bit quicker in reacting to what's been said to me, and, you know, not having to think, oh God, what does that mean? Well, this means this. So in that sense, I think that's only going to help me. And I also think it's also going to, you know, make me better, because I think then you'll be a little bit more switched on to different things. And if it needs to change the tactics in a game, or if you have to change position, that you're not kind of, you know, asking what's going on and all that. So of course, I still very, very much enjoy speaking English, and I will always throw in a little bit of English wherever I can. And I'm very lucky here because there's a good chunk of the girls will speak very, very good English. So if I ever meet up with them, there's never any pressure for me to, you know, to be fluent in German. That, you know, they're willing to help me out as well.
Don't forget the few words, Cooper Football as well. Just going back to the virus and what we're talking about earlier and how this has disrupted the league. So the last round of games was the 1st of March. Then we also had the international break within games against Greece and Montenegro. The league was meant to resume then, I think, 14, 15 March. It was announced, and just before that it was going to be suspended until the 30th of April. As you mentioned earlier, initial talks was going to be back by the 30th of April, but Angela Merkel has now announced bans on all large gatherings in Germany until at least the 31st of October. There's going to be another round of government discussions on the 30th of April. So it's looking like that the resumption date is definitely going to kick off into maybe late May at the earliest.
Yeah, like I said to you at the start, you know, I think initially from speaking to different people last week, they thought that Angela Merkel was going to maybe ease things this weekend, but she decided not to, and things have been extended now until the 5th of May. So I think similar to Ireland with the type of the deadline, but, you know, we were due back playing games by the 30th of April as per the last DFB meeting. So obviously now with the fact that the lockdown has been, you know, somewhat extended here, things are going to have to change, and we are hopefully going to be back training on Monday, whether it be in groups or whatever way they're going to work, but we're still not 100% sure. But as I said to you, I can't see us playing any games for until at least the end of May. But again, it's very, 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 very hard to know that as well. Obviously, the DFB are going to have to make a decision because we were due to be back playing games the weekend of the 30th of April. So what that means for us now, I have no idea. And I suppose, like everybody else, it's just a waiting game.
I heard Didi Hamann say that if games don't resume in the men's 32 divisions in Germany quite soon, with all the TV money involved, a lot of clubs are in danger of going bust and fold What's the situation like for women's teams if games don't resume within the next 2 months?
To be honest with you, that's a very good question. I was reading an article yesterday on Sky Sports that said that this could really affect women's football, because a lot of the teams again don't get the same type of revenue that men's teams get. So there has been the cases of some teams are getting very close to I suppose the breadline, and in that sense that it's, you know, you're very hopeful obviously that you don't want, you know, women's teams or anything to fall because of this, but I suppose we're not 100% sure about how long this is going to go on for, and, you know, the type of exposure you're going to be able to get. And I think there's probably a lot more revenue to lose in men's football than there is women's football. But at the same time, I think that, you know, because women's football aren't that hugely financially run, that the loss could nearly be the end of the club rather than, you know, just the loss of money. So, to be honest with you, it's very hard to know. You know, we've been reassured with Cologne that, you know, everybody's secure and everything pay-wise. There's going to be no issues with that. But at the same time, you know, you can't imagine it's going to be the same for every club. So I just suppose it just completely depends on the club.
Yeah, very challenging times ahead indeed. So wrap up there with your club career and now look towards your international career. And you started playing with Ireland at under 15 level and have worked your way up since all the way along.
Yeah, luckily enough, I've played with Ireland every underage age group, but also I suppose most importantly with the senior team. Again, I suppose when I decided to go full-time football, that was the main ambition, and, you know, obviously we're only getting to the start. Well, we're kind of midway through our campaign, but, you know, so far so good with the European qualifiers. But, you know, obviously there's a long way to go in that regard as well.
You also have the novelty of having represented your country at the World University Games. You're actually co-captain for that in 2017. That tournament was held in Taiwan. Not many people got to play football in Taiwan. What was that experience like?
Honestly, that was probably one of the best experiences I've had. Not just on the football side, but in terms of just a personal experience. Taiwan was such a beautiful country, and the games were obviously to represent Ireland, and which is they say is basically like the college's Olympics, was, you know, a hugely proud moment, and obviously to be co-captain for that was obviously hugely proud moment for me and my family, of course. But in terms of, it's one of those experiences that you nearly have to have been there to fully understand how special it was. Obviously playing in 45-degree heat on AstroTurf pitches was not overly ideal. You know, there was a lot of factor 50 for the 3 weeks that we were there, but in terms of experience, it was fantastic. And, you know, obviously I was very disappointed that I wasn't able to go to Naples last year because I was due to go away to Cologne at the same time. So and the girls did so well in that one, just missing out on a bronze medal. So two completely different experiences, I'm sure, but it was definitely very important and I experienced one.
That university games then led to the ultimate goal at international level 2 months later. Their first senior cap away to Northern Ireland, 2-0 victory in the World Cup qualifiers for 2019. Colin Bell was the manager then, so he gave you your debut. You mentioned earlier you had a part in your move to Cologne as well. Must have a big impact on your football career.
Yeah, of course he has. I think, you know, any coach that was trusted me enough to give me my first international cap. I always think I'll always hold Colin in extremely high regard, and, you know, I'm obviously very grateful for him for giving me that experience with the World University Games, to making me captain in that, plus being involved in the international team now, and that is something I've still managed to hold on to even after he's left. So it's something that I want to keep improving on as well. But I'm obviously very grateful for him for that, and also with Cologne as well. You know, he was very helpful in that, and I think it was important that I had somebody who was a little bit familiar with how things were in the German league as well, and, you know, he was very willing to help me out in anything, and even now any questions I have regarding anything, he's always willing to help.
Fast forward 7-8 months from that game in Belfast, September 2017 to April 2018 in Tallaght, the first goal for Ireland, and to make it even more dramatic, it was a last-minute winner in a qualifier against Slovakia.
Yeah, to be honest with you, with that goal, I suppose, obviously for me to score my first international goal is hugely, you know, it's fantastic, and something and a moment that I'll never forget. But I suppose the most important thing about that result was that it kept us in contention for qualification. And, unfortunately then the following months we had, obviously I think we had a very, very tough group, and the likes of Norway, who were top seeds going into the group, and obviously the Netherlands as European champions. It was always going to be very, very difficult, but obviously that day in Tala was a day I'll never forget, and it's important now for me that I can continue to improve, and hopefully there'll be a lot more days like that.
The stepping stones for this current campaign were kind of late in that qualifying campaign for World Cup. Like, good away results, beating Slovakia away, Northern Ireland away, obviously the draw against the European champions, the Netherlands. Colin Bell then left after that campaign to take up a role with Huddersfield. You went into this current campaign, first game against Montenegro, with still no manager. Tom O'Connor was the intern for that game. We won 2-0. Then Fiora Powell took over, and it's just really grown from there, hasn't it? We're starting off that fantastic 3-2 victory, a record crowd over Ukraine in Tala.
Yeah, I suppose, obviously after Colin left, I suppose it probably came at the worst time, because we were just about to start our qualification. But, I'm very, very lucky to be part of a team that is extremely focused on what they have to do. And even when we were going into the Montenegro camp, and we knew that Tom was going to be looking after us as he had against the USA, we knew we were in safe and capable hands. And we went into that game, obviously with Stephen Rice. He helped Tom out that weekend. It was fantastic to be working with a coach like Stephen Rice, who, he's young and he's up and coming, but he had us so well prepared that week going into the game, and obviously Tom as well. And then Vera took over, and as you said, everything's been really, really good since then. In terms of results, I think bar maybe dropping the 2 points away to Greece, it's been perfect, and it's been really, really exciting. And there is a new lease of life around the players, and you can see that the ambition to qualify is huge, and it's what everybody's working towards. So when you have a coach that's coming in and is reiterating that ambition, it's huge for the team, and it's really, really important. But as I've always said, it never mattered to us who we've coached, who was coaching us or who was looking after us. We're an extremely focused group, and we're self-driven as well, and we have tremendous players in the team, who are always, they're never afraid to let you know when you need to do better, and when something isn't good enough. And when you have that type of team, and when you have those players surrounding you, when a good coach comes in, then like Vera has, things are always going to look up as well.
So far in this campaign, you've played your part. You've played in 3 games, the last 2 games against Greece, Poland, and Montenegro away, and you also scored as well in that away game against Greece as well. That must have been a sweet feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think coming off the back of having not gotten a lot of game time with Cologne, to come in then to the international setup and to have scored was huge. Obviously, we were very disappointed to have dropped 2 points so late on in that game. But we said going into that game, Greece are going to be a difficult team for anybody to play against, and the Germans struggled against them for the first 40 minutes as well, because they are a nitty and gritty team that they will nearly just get stuck in, and they'll just disturb your play a little bit like they did with us. And I think when we reflect back onto it, the result at home against Greece was a huge one, because similar situation, 1-0, hold on to it as long as you can. They've had a few chances at the end. It would have been very disappointing to have dropped another 2 points, but we were very, very lucky, and I think we played well and deserved of the 3 points.
Halfway through the qualifying campaign, pretty sweet so far. 13 points, top of the group, point ahead of Germany, 9 ahead of Greece. You still have to play the Germans twice, so that's going to be a difficult task. Has the mindset kind of changed a little bit in terms of the group, as in like we just take second place and at least we're guaranteed to play off? Or now they're feeling like we can be one of the best second place runners up and qualify automatically?
Well, I think realistically, looking at the group with the likes of the Germans, they are the favourites for the group, and there's no getting away from that. But there's absolutely no reason why we can't get a result out against them, win the group. But of course, realistically, probably second place is probably which is what we're aiming for. Obviously, we want to qualify automatically, so obviously we're pushing as much as we can to get the second automatic place. So obviously, as you said, the Germans, whoever plays them is going to have a difficult game, and of course with us, you can see that as third seeds, maybe they would be kind of eyeing us up a little bit. But you'd be silly to underestimate any Irish team, and we showed against the Netherlands away that, when we're organised, we're very, very difficult to break down, and I can't imagine it's been any different against the Germans.
Just looking as well, you have yourself, Rihanna Jarlath, and Leanne Kieran, 3 players that in the last 2 or 3 years have come from the Irish League and now playing professional football. Rihanna's playing with Brighton, got a couple of goals already. Leanne's a big hit with West Ham. It's a really, really good mark for the league and good promotion that can lead to bigger and better teams.
Absolutely. I think as well, if you look at the Irish team in general as well, I think every single player has come through the ranks of Irish football, whether it be underage international or if they've played in the National League. So I suppose when you look at that, it's hugely positive for a coach to be looking at home-based players as well, and it also shows that the home-based players are well capable of also going abroad and playing football at the highest level, like so many players on the team have done. And I think when you name the likes of myself, Leanne, and Rihanna, again, it's just a lot of hard work as well. And the girls have been working extremely hard, and it's no easy feat that they get into this position that they're in. And everybody's in the same boat, but it does show you that coming from Ireland, it doesn't matter. You're still well capable of mixing it with the best.
Just finally, looking at the overall global state and how far women's football has come. We take the World Cup last year. Every game was televised on Irish TV and RTE or TG Catter. BBC had tremendous coverage from England. I was over in Canada for a while last summer. I was on. Canada were in it, but there was still great TV coverage, televised in a lot of pubs. You look at now with the Women's Super League in England, a lot of games been played in the football clubs in main stadiums like the Etihad, the London Stadium, Anfield, the Olympic Stadium. BT Sports giving tremendous coverage. It really is starting to come a long way.
Absolutely. And I think the most important thing with it has been the promotion of it and the exposure that the women's game has got. And you'd have to say it's been huge since the World Cup last year. I think that really kind of tipped the scales in our favour, that things were just going to get better and better. And I suppose the volume of the people that were attending the games, the volume of the people that were watching them, whether it be online, on TV, in pubs and bars and different things. But I suppose for me, I remember going into work one of the days in the National Sports Campus, and there were 2 young fellas just talking away about the Women's World Cup, and they obviously had no idea that I was involved in women's football, but the way they talked about it was the way that they would talk about an Arsenal Liverpool game at the weekend. So I think something like that there, it's just about getting the conversation started. I suppose the only thing that frustrates me is that it's this comparison all the time to men's football and men's football. But I just think people should stop comparing to, and I think you should just enjoy them for what they are. They are different sports, in terms of physicality and all that. But that doesn't mean that you can't appreciate women's football either, because I think the World Cup was a clear example of the skill, the talent, and the huge amount of work that them players put in as well was all on show. So hopefully now over the next few years, when I suppose especially when this pandemic settles down, that women's football will remain to keep growing and growing, and that I think it will become a powerhouse of international sport. And I just think that the exposure it's getting, and I suppose in Ireland as well with the 20 by 20 campaign, it's little things like that, just people that are willing to back you and to say, look, we're going to give you the wee bit of support that you need. And in Ireland we've been fantastic with that, and it's very, very lucky, and things will always improve when you have somebody behind you egging you on as well.
What's the TV coverage like in Germany for the women's Bundesliga? Will be up there with BT's coverage of the Women's Super League in England?
Well, there's at least 1, if not 2 games televised every weekend. I think mostly the Friday night games are televised on Eurosport, but I think there's a brand, Magneta Sport, also, and I think they do a game, if not 2 games themselves at the weekend. So there's nearly 2 to 3 games every weekend is broadcast. Again, it's something that the crowds in the games here would be quite good, but obviously I think that's something they still need to work on, especially when you're considering some of the teams come from really, really big men's clubs. In Cologne, the men's team sell out 50,000 every weekend, and we kind of get between, I think, 1,500 and 2,000. So obviously for us, it's still good numbers, but we obviously want to keep improving that, and it's the same with other clubs.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens when the resumption of the league after this current pandemic. Amber, thanks very much for joining us today on Irish Football Fans TV. Hope you're keeping safe and well over in Germany, and we'll see you back on the football pitch like many others in the next coming weeks and months.
Thanks a million, Gerard, for having me on.
No worries.